There it is. And here we are. We have made it to episode 118. Just going to cut through a few things briefly. Today is February 19th. Good morning and howdy. Hope everyone's all right. I am living the dream. Got the red. Boom. This is great. Got to get it in red. Now, next, I got to get it in blue. So that is coming next. So I'll lower this a little bit. A little too high. A little too high. All right. So I've got a few clips from Trump, a few clips from Kennedy, and let's get right into it. This is a good one right here.
I think it's relevant because we're not just in a health crisis, but we're in a spiritual crisis, and those things are connected. And so many times during my campaign, traveling across the country, I sense that people are feeling disconnected. You have a whole generation of kids that feels alienated, dispossessed. They are in a existential crisis, not only because their health is, 77% of our kids can't qualify for military service. There's a purposelessness in their lives and no sense of usefulness or effectiveness or connectedness to their communities. And that drives also the chronic disease epidemic and the epidemics we're seeing of depression, of suicide, of alcoholism, of drug addiction. I think we have to.
It's really true. It's when you don't have Jesus in your life, when you don't have God, you don't have Jesus. What do you have? You have a spiritual crisis, which is what we have today in this country. Kennedy nails it. He hits it right on point. But that is exactly what we have right now. This spiritual crisis that we're all facing, that America is facing, is kind of scary. It's pretty scary. But when you put Jesus Christ as the center of your life, then you have something to live for. And we're all looking for that. And so for those who may not be hooked on Jesus, or who may not have discovered that, or who don't believe it, keep an open mind to it, because just because you don't see it right now, you may. And those seeds have probably already been planted in your life. But whatever it is, this is a spiritual crisis, because we are in a spiritual war. This is spiritual warfare that we are fighting. Never, ever forget that. I don't know why it's mirroring my camera, so I'm going to flip that over and let's listen a little bit more.
Address all of those things at the same time. We can't just say we're going to make you physically healthy. We have to.
That's a tall order.
Yeah, well, I think, we all have to learn. We need to get up in the morning and not think about what am I going to do to make myself happy today. We have to get up and say, what am I going to do to make myself useful today, to be useful to my friends, to my family, to my community.
And I think that's a very important point there. When it's not just about you, and when your world doesn't just revolve around you, it changes things. It changes your life. I do want to play a little bit of this. I thought this was pretty funny too.
Mr. Secretary, who can bench press more, Hegseth or you?
I would say Pete can probably. I've had shoulder surgeries on both shoulders, so I maybe we'll have to find out.
That's what I'm saying. And everything's good with the a lot of family dissension, but you have a message to everyone out there who has mixed political families.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I love my family. I was raised in a milieu where we criticized each other and where we debated, but at the same time, we could love each other. And I can only wish the same thing for our country. We ought to be able to disagree with each other and not hate each other.
Still love each other. That's what we're called to do.
Yeah.
Amen.
Today, Senator Pete Ricketts said that you'd follow the science on marijuana's harms, which are increasingly documented. There have been two recent studies saying that pot causes psychosis. One from Canada, one even covered by the New York Times, multiple pieces actually in the Times. It increases the chances of death. Are you concerned about the normalization of high THC marijuana, especially among our young people, and what might you do about it?
Yeah, I am worried about it. And, I've been in recovery for 42 years. I go to 12-step meetings, Laura, every day. And so I hear stories all the time of people, of the impacts of marijuana on people and really catastrophic impacts on them. That worry also has to be balanced about, the impacts that we had before. The 25 states now have legalized marijuana. But we had about a third of our prison population that was in jail because of marijuana offenses. That's something we don't want either. We have, because of the legalization of recreational marijuana in 25 states, we have now a capacity to really study it and to compare it to states.
Studies look bad.
Right. And we need to do studies. We need to figure out, and then we need to implement policies to address.
Anti-abortion.
She's pretty anti-weed there, but I don't believe that. I don't believe it's all that bad. In moderation, it's probably fine too. But I'm not convinced that weed is so bad. Anything that you do that you overuse, I think is bad. I have my own fights with THC, and CBD seems to work out very well for me. But there are a lot of medical uses for marijuana that they have been using for a long, long time. So, and when the recreational drugs, let's look at the states that have made, weed legal, and how has that harmed anything or anybody? I think those are the studies Kennedy is talking about. So I hope it all works out. And let's hear his thoughts on abortion.
Or pro-life people and pro-abortion people are debating about what y'all are going to do with the abortifacient drugs that some would say haven't been studied enough, especially among young people. They're over the counter. Biden loosened the restrictions on them. What will you do on that issue?
Yeah, President Trump hasn't made a decision about that issue yet.
Study it more?
What he's asked me to do is study the safety and study the safety signals. And I think that that's worth doing. During the Biden administration, the NIH did something that was inexcusable, which is to tell doctors and patients not to report injuries, and that's not a good that's not a good policy.
There's rumors out there that as many as
so I'm going to. I like the conversations here. This is part of a full interview that was done with Laura Ingraham a couple days ago. So you can go and check all of those out. But it was hard to find. So that's from February 13th, 2025. I was able to grab as many of those as I possibly could. But I want to play a little bit of this one about where some of the money is going. We always wonder where the money is going here. And this is crazy what Doggy Style is finding. They're finding a lot of stuff. So I'm going to play a little bit of this.
And then, where's the money being spent, right? Let's go into that for just a second. $520 million for a consultant on the environment. It's called Environmental, Social, and Governance. Investments in Africa and mobilize private sector resources. $520 million. Somebody got $520 million for an environmental, sounds like an environmental study. I've always been one that paid a lot of money for my environmental studies, but I paid like $50,000, not $520 million. $520 million for ESG. $25 million to promote biodiversity, conservation, and promote licit livelihoods by developing socially responsible behavior in the country of Colombia. Well, it's nice, $25 million going to Colombia for something that nobody ever heard of. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. $40 million. $42 million for Johns Hopkins, great place, to research and drive social and behavior change in Uganda. $42 million. What about us? What about social change in our country? $70 million for a center at Purdue to research university-sourced, evidence-based solutions to developmental challenges.
And this is crazy. Just all of this government waste that has nothing to do with making America great again. And that's what we need to be spending our money on. I'm hearing a lot of rumors, a lot of things that because of what they're finding, they're going to find, hopefully, there's going to be some consequences for people who have been involved in this stuff. And I'm hearing there even may be some relief for all of us too. Maybe a little check at the end of the year. I don't know. Who knows? I wouldn't count on it, but you never know. But it's great to hear all of this stuff because that I hate to just say it's the Democrats because it's not really the Democrats, but this party elite structure that is so mad at what Doggy Style is finding, all the stuff that they are finding. But if this was any other thing, this would be money laundering by any other name. I don't know what else you could call it. What else would you call it? Incompetence, okay, on the part of some, but somebody knows where all this money is going. It's going somewhere.
I mean, these are massive numbers on things that nobody ever heard about. $10 million for Mozambique voluntary medical male circumcisions.
Crazy.
$10 million for circumcisions in another country. $9.7 million for UC Berkeley to develop a cohort of Cambodian youth with enterprise-driven skills. In other words, let's teach them something about enterprise. What about our people?
And this is just what they're
Can
finding.
we teach them about enterprise? $2.3 million for strengthening independent voices in Cambodia. $32 million to the Prague Civil Society Center, which is a very liberal group of people.
All the stuff
Wonder
he's
how much of that
finding.
money came back to the people.
This is the New World Order. This is what the New World Order has been wanting to do, and apparently they're able. And who knows how long they've been doing this, but this is what the New World Order is. It's taking your money, taking our money, and dishing it out globally. And then it's harder to trace, harder to track. We don't really know what it's used for. A lot of it is very vague. We just have to trust our government to spend the money correctly. And why would we do something like that when our debt just keeps rising and keeps rising? And now they're finding ways that we can cut that debt and we can maybe even eliminate that debt in a matter of years if we do this right, if we stick to this. And when they're firing people and they're getting rid of people, they're talking about waste. They're not talking about the average day worker, the person, the lower level federal agents, the lower level people who are actually doing the real work. They're talking about the people who are sitting up in those towers, and their job is to just monitor what everyone else is doing, to get a cush job, to keep them out of the way from whatever the New World Order is doing, from whatever their plot is, to buy people off, to pay people off, to silence them, basically, give them a nice little cush job, and hope that they just turn a blind eye to everything. Those days are numbered. Those days are really numbered. They're over now. Because now we unite America. All right. Enough of that. Only 2 minutes in. That's a lot of waste.
People that approved it. $14 million for improving public procurement in Serbia.
It's going to get worse.
$486 million to the Consortium for Elections and Political Process Strengthening, including $22 million for inclusive and participatory political process in Moldova, and $21 million for voter turnout in India. Well, why are we giving $21 million to India? They got a lot of money. They're one of the highest taxing countries in the world in terms of us. We can hardly get in there because their tariffs are so high. I have a lot of respect for India. I have a lot of respect for the prime minister. He just left, as you know, 2 days ago. But we're giving $21 million for voter turnout.
Voter turnout.
It's voter turnout.
This is crazy.
In India.
In India.
What about like voter turnout here? Oh, we've done that, I guess. We did 500 million, didn't we? It's called the lock boxes. $20 million for fiscal federalism in Nepal. Listen to these numbers. This is all fraud. $19 million for biodiversity conservation in Nepal. $1.5 million for voter confidence. We want to give them confidence in Liberia. $14 million for social cohesion in Mali. $2.5 million for inclusive democracies in South Africa. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia's doing very well. They're doing a lot better than we do in the schools, aren't they? $2 million to develop sustainable recycling models to increase socioeconomic cohesion among marginalized communities in Kosovo and Eshkali and in Egypt. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. I could, by the way, I could read this all day long. I could go on all day long, and you'll see hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're doing it. But look at this, from 90 to 99.
So, before I get to that, because I do want to hear Trump's view on the Social Security fraud, which I think is really good. It really upset me, and I think it should upset all of us. I do want to play a little bit of Kennedy, HHS cutbacks, and the vaccines. So those are, I only got a few more of the Kennedy clips. I was trying to go back and forth. I just didn't do it right.
There's rumors out there that as many as 50% of the employees of HHS will be cut in the restructuring of government that DOJ is helping President Trump carry out. And people are wringing their hands. Your response to that?
I don't know anything about 50% of people being cut. There's 90,000 employees. I would be surprised if there were 50% cuts.
How much do you think you might cut?
Well, I mean, I think the lower level employees at HHS, most of them are public spirited, good public servants, good American patriots, and hardworking people. What I'm interested in are moving away the people who have made really bad decisions. For example, on the nutrition guidelines, people who have, there's people at NIH that were involved in the amyloid plaque scandals that derailed Alzheimer's treatment for 20 years. It's all corruption. Those kind of people need to be moved.
Do you have a list of people that you already know need to be removed?
I have a list in my head, and we have a generic.
He's got a list. He's got a list. Trump has a list. They all got a list, and there are probably a lot of people you'll find on the same list of the FBI and the same list of some of Trump's appointees and secretaries.
List of the kind of people that, if you've been involved in good science, you got nothing to worry about. If you care about public health, you got nothing to worry about. If you're in there working for the pharmaceutical industry, then I'd say you should move out and work for the pharmaceutical industry.
Yep, there you go.
Mr. Secretary, Dr. Paul Offit, who you know is on the National Vaccine Advisory Board, was on CNN earlier today. He said this.
Of course, he's going to do everything he can to make vaccines less available and less affordable. He is about to certainly hurt the vaccine infrastructure in this country. And I think what's about to happen is he is about to join hands with Donald Trump and march together into measles land, because I think that's what's about to happen.
So you're now going to be responsible, not an open border. You're going to be responsible for a measles outbreak. That's the new line from the vaccine community.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to take away anybody's vaccine. If people are happy with their vaccines, they ought to be able to get them. What we're going to do is give people good science. We don't have good safety studies on almost any of the vaccines. Vaccines are the one medical product that is exempt from pre-licensing safety studies. So I sued HHS a few years ago in 2018, and I said, show us one study, one pre-licensing study of any of the vaccines that are now, the 72 vaccines that are now mandated for children on the childhood schedule. And after a year of sandbagging, HHS came to the courthouse and handed us a letter and saying, yeah, there are no studies. The only vaccine that is on the childhood schedule that had a placebo-controlled double-blind trial was the COVID vaccine. None of the other ones have. That doesn't mean you have to do that kind of trial now, but you need to know what the risk profile is for these products.
Do you think the COVID vaccine was safe and the boosters were safe? I mean, a lot of people talk about adverse effects.
We don't have good data on it, and that is a crime. The fact that we don't have a surveillance system that actually works. In 2010, CDC has a surveillance system called the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. And it's supposed to pick up injuries. But CDC did a study of that system in 2010. And that study said, and this is a published study by CDC, that it captures less than 1% of the vaccine injuries. That's inexcusable. Congress has repeatedly, and the Institute of Medicine, the National Academy of Sciences, have repeatedly ordered CDC to put together a better vaccine.
Will you require it?
And we will do that right away.
It's a big,
I like that.
top three
really like
additives that
I'm
you.
going to stop right there just for a second. Lots of big news in my life too, just as far as the writing. And I was just chatting with Christian Coffins a little bit, and my book Kennedy and Trump is pretty much done. A lot earlier than I thought. I didn't think I'd be, having it almost ready for a release this early. So I'm very happy to have the Kennedy and Trump book pretty much done. I'm going to do a rough publish, a private publish. So, because I really love the final version of my book, the final read through. I like to have the physical book in my hand and read through it, take notes, see if there's anything I missed, make sure formatting is correct, everything is flowing good. But Catherine sent me the latest draft last night, and she says it's pretty much ready to go. So if she says it's ready to go, then I believe it. I believe it. And so just have one more read through, move the sources to the end of the book, number them, and then it is ready to go. So hopefully maybe another month or so, and the book will be published, self-published. I'm very happy about that. Very happy. It's been a wild journey, but it's been a lot of fun. It's been a blessing to write this. It's been a blessing to see how this is all played out between Kennedy and Trump, because the book began as Kennedy versus Trump, Trump versus Kennedy. And everywhere you go, everywhere you look at, you'll see everything is Trump, Kennedy, Trump, Kennedy. Even the flags I have, Trump, Kennedy. But I really felt like it was important to put Kennedy's name first, because Kennedy came first. The Kennedy family, what the Kennedy family did, came first. RFK Jr. was in the White House long before President Trump ever was. RFK Jr. has a lot of history in the White House, has seen a lot of things from childhood, has been through a lot, has been annexed, has seen all different sides of it, and has been through the lawfare, the censorship, and the ridicule, the media attacks, all of that. They never went after Kennedy legally, and that's going to be hard because he is a lawyer. But also, I'm sure some of those things may be coming. But Kennedy is quick to file lawsuits against a lot of these people. And he's got active lawsuits right now against some of the pharmaceutical companies. So I really felt it was very important to put Kennedy's name first in front of this book. And Christian Coffins has done some great artwork of putting the side by side, the dual face, Kennedy on one side, Trump on the other side, and was able to match it up. Because I've seen other people try it and they couldn't get the face right. They either Kennedy's face was a little off, but Christian Coffins was able to actually get both sides of the face correct, and like it looks like, one picture pretty much of the same face. It's really cool. He did a really good job with that. And so hopefully we're gonna meet this weekend, chat about the book cover, the book artwork, and everything, and go from there. And then after that, what I've already started kind of writing or finishing up is my COVID book, COVID-19, The Invisible Enemy, the Early Days of COVID. So that is something I started in 2020, and I abandoned it around the time that I started writing this book in 2022. Actually, I abandoned it to write a second David Crowley book. So I'll be getting back into that one too. So I may have 3 books released this year in 2025, not including my musical lyric books. That is just all of the music lyrics from all of the projects that I've done that I'm proud of. And then I wanted to add just a little brief summary about every song. So if I get to that, who knows, maybe 4 books this year. I doubt I'll get to all of them. But the COVID one is really bringing me back to those early days and going through the emotions of what it was like being in the shelter in place lockdown and all of that. And so it kind of ties into the Kennedy and Trump saga. Both of them will have quotes in that book too. I've reserved. I've found some quotes of recently, 2023, 2024, that I think will fit perfectly in the COVID book. Senator Rand Paul, his debates with Fauci, I think will go right in that book, right at the end. Right now, my main focus is to finish what I started with the book that I was trying to write in real time. And so hopefully this will be filled with details, quotes. I love a good quote. Anyone who has read any of my books knows that I love a good quote. That's what I like to read in books, and that's the way that I write. I love Dick Russell. If you've never heard of the author named Dick Russell, he's very good at that, taking a lot of quotes. So I really like that style of having a lot of quotes in the book. And whether people like it or not, or think that all I'm doing is just taking quotes and being lazy, I've tried to take some of that criticism and say, okay, well, maybe I don't need to take this whole paragraph. Maybe I can summarize it a little bit. But a lot of the time I find that it just works a lot better with just keeping the whole quote in for the proper context too. So trying to balance those two things as I learn this whole writing process with the help of Catherine. Catherine has been a big help with that, who's writing her own books too, fiction books, and she will be doing the foreword for my COVID book. So I'm very excited about that. Very excited about this year. This, just like how Trump is just blitzing, getting so much done this year. I feel like I'm going to do the same thing with my writing, because I haven't released anything since 2020, any books. So I think that'll be it. I think I will abandon the 2020 voter fraud book. I just don't really know, what to do with that. Which kind of sucks, because I spent a lot of time with that, and I have 3 notebooks of just written notes about the 2020 voter fraud. So we'll see what happens with that one too. And then the Shadows and Light book, which will probably be, hopefully, one of the grand finale books that I write, a more spiritual book. We'll see how all of that plays out. More personal book too, I think. But I'm very excited about the Kennedy and Trump book, releasing that here a lot sooner than I really thought. And so I hope you all will enjoy that, just for your research purposes of Kennedy and Trump, to go back and look at this last year and a half, started in 2023. And here we are in 2025. So about 2 years later, and it's nice to see it all just kind of playing out and turning full circle, and where Kennedy and Trump are able to finish that job that they both started, to heal those wounds that they both had, and to help heal the wounds of this country that we've had since way before I was even born. It's been a true blessing. I'll play a little bit more of this one. This is the radical food transparency that Kennedy is asked about.
You hope in your role you'll be able to basically remove from our food supply?
Well, I would say, first of all, I believe in freedom of choice. If you want to eat Twinkies, you ought to be able to eat them, but you ought to know what's in them. So a lot of what I'm going to do is about radical transparency, about making people understand, allowing people to understand, and empower them with understanding that if you eat that, it may seem cheap, but it's going to cost you in the long run. You're going to get diabetes, et cetera. There are certain additives. We have 10,000 additives in our food. The Europeans have 400. Many of the additives that we have are just illegal in Europe. And we need to move more and more toward the European standards.
How is that not a nanny state? I'm saying what the critics are going to say. That RFK Jr. is just a new Bloomberg nanny state, which conservatives traditionally aren't. President Trump likes Big Macs. We're not going to take those away, are we?
Oh, we're not going to take. That's what I'm saying. If you want to eat a Big Mac, you ought to. But McDonald's ought to be incentivized to use beef tallow fat when it's cooking as Big Macs, and so that they're good for people, rather than using seed oils or some other cooking oils that are actually going to probably make you sicker. And so we want to do a number of things, but not take away choice from people. The one place that I would say that we need to really change policies is in the SNAP program and food stamps and in school lunches, because there the federal government in many cases is paying for it. And we shouldn't be subsidizing people to eat poison.
Will you do that in conjunction with the Department of Agriculture? Brooke Rollins was also
Yes,
confirmed. So
yes.
you'll be working in tandem.
Yeah, and Brooke and I work very well together, and we're aligned on those issues.
Minutes before your confirmation vote,
All right.
there was someone who wasn't too happy. Watch.
Oh, Chuck Schumer got it.
Previous HHS secretaries have had a pharmaceutical industry background, have been a state health commissioner,
Chucky.
have run health systems, have been governors. Somebody who has had a background in actually administering the programs that HHS administers. Which of these qualifications does RFK possess? You know the answer. None of them.
I mean, at the top, he just gave away the ghost, referencing, you didn't work for the pharmaceutical companies. How dare you? So he said the quiet part out loud there.
The qualifications that Senator Schumer is talking about there are the very qualifications that got us to where we are today. These are the people who got us to be the sickest country in the world. We are 4.2% of the world's population. We buy 70% of the pharmaceutical drugs on earth. We spend 2 to 3 times what other countries pay for healthcare, and we have the worst health outcomes. We literally have the sickest population in the world. Those are the people that got us there. We do need a break. We need somebody different who can come in and say, I'm going to be a disruptor. I'm not going to let the food industry and the pharmaceutical industry run health policy anymore. We're going to turn health policy over to people who are actually concerned with public health.
Are all drug company grants going to be done away with anyone on a advisory board or anyone who's connected to the federal government?
The panelists in HHS, in FDA, CDC, and NIH, there are panels that are made up of outside individuals, outside experts who come in and set policies. They set, for example, the food triangle, the food pyramid, the nutrition guidelines, the vaccine guidelines, the medical standards of care. In the past, those people, almost all of them, have severe conflicts of interest. Oh, and that's not good for our country. And we've seen what's happened. You have Fruit Loops at the top of the food pyramid.
And you're in what I was reading so much about today, and we're going to
only going to get to one more. Actually, well, this one is good too, but I'm going to save that one. So I'm going to get to one more here.
But look at this, from 90 to 99, Social Security, 6,054,000 people. Well, that's okay. Maybe that's possible. 90 to 99.
He's talking about ages.
Possible. It's a lot of people, though, at that. But people that live to 100 to 109, 4,734,000. Wow, that's a lot.
So much.
That means over 100 years old. They're 4 million people. I don't know too many. I know people that are doing great in their 90s, but not too many people over 100.
4 million people.
Over 120, from 120 years old, people that are 120 years old up to 129. 3,472,000 people. Wow.
Crazy.
That can't possibly be, because the record is I think it's one person, a woman, lived to 127, but they have 3,472. Okay, but now we're going really in. People from 130 years old to 139 year old, 3,936,000. Wow. I wonder if people are getting paid with all this. I mean, are these checks? And that's what we're checking right now.
That's what I wanted to say.
People from 140 years old to 149 years old, 3,542,000.
Crazy. Now, are they getting paid? Where is this money going? Is it just going in a lockbox somewhere? Is it just going to dark money? Is that what this is to justify it? It's going somewhere. It's definitely going somewhere. So I'm glad that they're looking into it, but I hope they not only discover it, but that it's not any national security BS. We need to know where this money is going and who put it there. It's going to be a lot of people pointing fingers, I'm sure.
140 years old and beyond. Now we're really going, because we're looking to break the record by 25 years. People from 150 years old to 159 years old, 1,345,000. These are in the, by the way, these are in the computer files.
And if
This
they
is what
voted,
they
too.
do well. They're super. I asked Elon, who are these Doge people? He said they're super brilliant computer people and they love the country. It's simple. Wait a minute. People from 160 years old to 169 years, 121,000. So 160-year-old people. 170 to 179,000, 6,087. But now let's go into the real numbers. From 200 to 209 years old, 879 people. From 210 years old, I haven't met any of them. And if I did, I would bless them. I would worship the ground they walk on. 210 to 219 years, 866. From 220 years old to 229 years old, 1,039. And then you have two people from 240 years old to 249 years old, one person. And there's one person that's 360 years old. That's just that. But when I saw the Social Security numbers, I said, wow, that's really something. So we have, let's just go above 100 years old. We have millions and millions of people over 100 years old. Everybody knows that's not so. We have a very corrupt country, very corrupt country. And it's a sad thing to say, but we're figuring it out. Now, the good thing about Social Security and what I read is if you take all of those numbers off, because they're obviously fraudulent or incompetent, but if you take all of those millions of people off Social Security, all of a sudden we have a very powerful Social Security with people that are 80 and 70 and 90, but not 200 years old. You know, so it's a very positive thing.
Yep. And so that's that's crazy, and that's just what they are finding. So the problem was not Social Security. The problem is just bad government, bad spending. This is one of the things that I heard about Ronald Reagan is you want to keep the government small. The government doesn't need to be large. The federal government, even the local and state governments don't either. If they're finding waste at this level of the federal government, you can imagine how much waste there probably is at the local level, at the state level, at the county level, however you call it. It is very, very frustrating to see that. So when they remember for years they're saying Social Security is going to run out, it's going to run out. And with all of these people that they are finding that are probably dead or do not exist, at the very least, let's just say they're all dead and they just were never taken off of Social Security and the money is in a lockbox somewhere. Those are all people who could have probably voted too. And the voter fraud in 2020, it could be related to that. It could be related to a lot of different voter fraud. We don't really know. So I hope that they're able to find out who these people are that are over 100 years old, where that money is going. And are these people also voting? Because then you're talking about millions and millions of votes that could have contributed and may still possibly contribute in the future to massive voter fraud, which is a big problem. And I don't know if that's a Kash Patel thing with the FBI, but they need to find out more about the voter fraud system and figure out ways to change that. But if there are millions of people who are dead that are still receiving Social Security paychecks, it is highly possible that there are millions of people who are dead that are still voting in our elections, or people are voting in their name. That's possible. All right, everyone. God bless you all. We'll be live on Christian Coffins tonight, Dark Docs Digest. Make sure that you check that out. I may even pop in a little bit for a little live cameo. We will see. God bless you all. Remember, Jesus Christ loves you, and so do I.